In the winter of 1926, the silence in rooms like this began to scream the same untold story.
Her name was Anna. She sought joy. She found something far more bizarre.
The law was supposed to save America. But the thirst turned every city into a black market.
Bootleggers found their source not in stills, but in the industrial alcohol required for commerce.
The government tried to stop them with poison, but the bootleggers just washed it away.
A failure led to a meeting, a deadly solution, an irreversible, shocking decision.
The old poisons were weak. The new formula added something terrifying, pure, systemic death.
They didn't sell to criminals. They sold to people like Anna, looking for a moment of forgotten joy. The new poison worked instantly. The first sign wasn't sickness, but the beginning of absolute darkness.
Every case was different, but the final symptom is always the same: permanent, irreversible darkness.
Thorne realized this wasn't random bad batches. This was a pattern, a citywide, quiet war.
He had to find the source. He had to prove the unthinkable. The poison was official.
The public saw a mystery. The officials saw a solution to their wet problem.
The agony was not instantaneous. It was a slow, systemic shutdown, felt right down to the bone.
Thorne understood the physical poison, but the political poison was isolating him.
The chemical was spreading faster than any government could control, contaminating the very supply lines.
Thorne went to the top. The response was a moral shield, claiming the victim was at fault.
They estimated 10,000 deaths. A silent slaughter, justified by a moral law.
The map, the formula, the faces. The evidence was irrefutable. The government was the killer.
Thorne tried to warn the city, but the major newspapers refused to print the accusation. It was simply too unbelievable.
The official statement was cold, brutal, and chillingly logical. The victim chose their fate by breaking the law.
But the human cost, the agony, the blindness, the betrayal was ignored for the sake of a failed experiment.
Thorne couldn't bring Anna back, but he could ensure her death and the others meant something.
The poison came from here, a government facility, shielded by shadows and official power.
Every barrel was a potential grave. The scale of the strange history was truly shocking.
He knew the only way out is through. He needed proof so devastating they couldn't bury it.
He couldn't use the regular channels. He needed an anonymous drop, a single piece of evidence that screamed, murder.
The sample went not to the authorities, but to the few remaining honest journalists in the city.
The test was undeniable. This wasn't bad liquor. This was the government's customized, high-powered, lethal experiment.
The truth finally broke! The silence finally broke!
The system had fought him every step. But the bodies and the evidence could not be lied about forever. The officials retreated into the shadows, burning the paper trail. But the poison had already seeped into the national conscience. Thorne had won the battle for the truth. But 10,000 lives, like Anna's, were the permanent scar of this weird history. The speakeasies emptied overnight. Fear succeeded where the law had failed. But the fear was of their own government.
A few minor officials were sacrificed. The real architects of this untold scandal walked away free.
Thorne had done his job, but the victory felt hollow, cold, and utterly unfinished.
The cost was measured not in politics, but in every forgotten face, every life that ended in terrifying darkness.
And then,
The system did what it does best. It moved on.
But the question remained today. When the government decides the law is more important than the citizen, what happens next?
10,000 lives. It's a terrifying lesson in power, morality, and the true cost of an absolute law.
The headlines faded. The public moved on. But the question of responsibility never received a satisfying answer. Prohibition, the source of this lethal enforcement, would eventually be repealed. But the toxic chemical, the methanol, remains. Its formula, a permanent reminder of its deadly potential.
The truth had been told, but the burden of every lost life stayed with the man who found it.
This weird history offers a clear lesson. When the enforcer believes the law justifying any means, the consequence is chaos.
But what do you think? Was this an unfortunate outcome of a justifiable law, or a deliberate act of betrayal?
Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss this shocking chapter of history.
For every Anna, there were thousands of other faces, each a silent casualty of the government's moral rigidity.
The true untold cost was buried deep within official ledgers, then intentionally erased. Thorne walked away, but he knew the shadow of government overreach could always return. When does control become murder? A question we must never stop asking.
If they buried this secret, what other weird history is waiting to be found?
Remember, Anna. Remember the shocking truth hidden under the jazz and the glamour.
10,000 lives. That is the number history must never forget. If this untold story moved you, share it. Expose this chapter of history.
And if you want more hidden secrets and bizarre history, don't miss our next video.
Thank you for watching. Your support keeps these stories alive.
Hit that subscribe button now and join the search for truth.